So today we're going to be talking about some of the most important things you should know when you are choosing a domain name to start your website. This is for people who just need some guidance and direction and are just beginning their website journey. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. So the first thing that you should know about a domain name is what is actually a domain name. So that's very important to know. The domain name is a part of the URL, and it's essentially going to be the name of your website. So there are four main parts of a domain name, and that's the protocol, the subdomain, the domain name, and then the top level domain. And as you can see in this picture that I have right here, these are the four parts of your URL, and the domain name is the part in the middle, which is essentially, like I said before, going to be the name of your website. So the domain name represents your brand. And when you're representing your brand, it's very important to be intentional and thoughtful and plan out things for the future. And when you're doing this with your domain name, it's very important that you take time to choose what your domain name is actually going to be, and that it actually represents your brand well, and it correlates with the niche of your brand or the topic of your website and the things that you're going to be talking about. So for example, let's say you have a store, a website that is a store and you sell planners, but if you name your website like, I don't know, tosh'sadvice.com, that has nothing to do with, planners, and people aren't going to know that your website sells planners just from your domain name, which is something that you don't want. So being really thoughtful and carefully planning out your domain name is super important, and it's not something that you should rush. And you should also think about, how that domain name that you choose is going to affect the future of your brand or of your website. And I know it sounds like a lot of pressure, because it kind of is, but at the same time, this is just the steps that you have to take and the thought process you have to go through when you are starting your website and doing things like this. So I wish someone would have told me this before, but these are things that you need to know, and I am here to provide, some answers and some guidance. So the third thing that you need to do when you are, choosing your domain name is do your research. And by this, I mean, find out what domain names are available and which ones are taken and which ones fit your website best. And if you're wondering, well, Tosh, how do I find out what domain names are taken? Well, I'm going to tell you. Some web hosts have domain name search tools that you can use if you just type in the domain name that you want, and they will tell you which domain names are available, and you can choose from the selected list that they give you. You can also use certain websites like domain.com that will help you search domain names and see which ones are available as well. So there are so many domain name register tools out there that you can use to your disposal, and they're really helpful. So one I recommend, like I said before, is domain.com, or just use the domain name search tool that your web host provides for you when you're buying your domain name, because you can purchase a domain name from the web host that you choose as well, depending on which one you choose. So keep that in mind. And you also want to research the competition, because you want to avoid copyright situations. Let's say like you have a name that's really similar to another website, and you start to get big on your website, and then they notice you and you stick out for the other website that your name is similar to, and they can say, well, your name is too similar to ours, or you stole our name because we've been around longer and you started after us. So you really want to be mindful and, do your research on available domain names, and research ones that may be really similar to yours as well, so you can avoid, being in copyright situations and being sued and just all the things that come with, headaches like that. It's very important to work smarter and not harder and be very strategic in, choosing your domain name, because you don't want to go through all that, you know what I mean? And you can also just go to your search bar and type in the domain name that you think you would want and see if it's taken. So let's say like you have a website that you want to call like coffeesandmugs.com because you want to sell coffees and mugs as a product. So you just go to your search bar in your search engine of your choosing and then type in coffeesandmugs.com and see if another website pops up. If that website pops up, then obviously you cannot, have that domain name and you have to choose another one. And you can do this for any domain name ideas you have as well. So that is just a little tip as well, if you don't want to use a domain register tool. But I highly recommend that you at least do one, and it's even better if you use a domain register tool and you type it into the search bar of the search engine of your choosing. So always better safe than sorry, just keep that in mind. And when you get your domain name, you also want to get a privacy protection for your domain name. That is also very essential, and one step that you should not skip, even if it does cost extra money, and I'm sure it will. So on to number 4, and that is, sometimes people wonder or kind of think about, well, does my domain name affect SEO? And if you don't know what SEO is, it stands for search engine optimization. The answer is yes and no. It can affect SEO, so that's why it's kind of important to make sure that if you can have a keyword in your domain name. However, the effect that SEO has when it comes to your domain name is very minimal, and there are other things that take priority and other things that impact SEO more than your domain name. So that would not be first on the list of things to worry about in terms of SEO. So yeah, I would just keep that in mind, because you don't want to focus all this time of choosing the perfect domain name that is SEO friendly, and when in fact, yeah, it can influence SEO to a certain degree, but the degree that it influences it is not very high, and it's not something that should be on the top of your list. And number 5 on the things you should know when choosing your domain name is make sure that, especially if you're trying to start a business and this is not just a hobby for you, that you choose a domain name that's going to be easily remembered. So keep the length pretty short as you can and make it short and concise and memorable, and just make it professional and appropriate, you know what I mean? So no curse words, no inappropriate weird innuendos or anything like that that people can take the wrong way, you know what I mean? And just be, just use your common sense and be smart about it, and you will be fine. If you can, make sure you have, just a good domain name that's very catchy and that can stick in people's minds. And that looks different for different niches and different, websites. However, you can also ask family, friends for their opinions and their input on which, domain names they think sound the best, or take a poll, or, just ask people that you really trust and people's opinions that you value. If you think this is a good domain name or not, or if it's memorable, or if it's too long, or, just, questions like that. So that's what I highly recommend. So we are done for today, and this is the end of the video. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any questions or comments, don't forget to leave it below. I will love to hear your comments and answer your questions, so don't be shy. And I will see you next time. Bye.